Well, welcome to another show. I'm talking about the School of Public Health. The University of Maryland is bringing to you our culminating show as we talk about leadership in the time of crisis. I'm Omar Neal. I'll be one of your hosts today. I'm the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, as well as the host of the You Got the Power syndicated radio talk show. And we're going to have an extremely wonderful show today. We're going to have Reverend Stefan Ferguson, who is going to be Dr. King tonight. And then we're going to have Dr. Melissa Clark, better known as Dr. Mel. Excuse me, doctor. And of course, we got Mrs. Quartasian Hunt, who is a songbird, who will be a Mahalia Jackson tonight. And we got none other than my sidekick. They call him Dr. T, Dr. Stephen Thomas. Hey, man, what's going on?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, imagine tonight at a moment like this, as we head into the new year, to get voices from the past to speak to us in the present.
Yeah.
And do we not need that more than ever right now? That kind of inspiration, that kind of recognition that we're all in this together, that kind of recommitment to the common good. Very, very important. And we lost another one today in Bell Hooks, author, poet, writer. And I think that the fact that we can bring those voices back, like we're going to do tonight, gives me hope.
It's so powerful. And tonight we are talking about leadership and the courage of leadership, because they say the measure of a man is not determined, and woman, it's not determined in times of comfort and convenience, but challenge and controversy. When you can step up and do the right thing, when you can be hurt, injured, even killed, but you do it because courage doesn't mean that you're unafraid. Courage means that you act appropriately in the face of fear. And as you look at the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he personifies courage. And so to bring him into this space and to have his spirit permeate this space is really appropriate, apropos for this moment. And so I'm excited. This is the culmination show. This is the last show of the year, I think. Is that right, Dr. T?
We're coming into that moment, and so we'll be wrapping up 2021. This is our reflection. This is why it's so important to have those voices of the past in many ways to get us ready for the future, for 2022, right around the corner.
Yeah.
And we want you to continue to follow us on our social media platforms. This is where even over the break, we'll be sending out messages to you. We'll be curating our town halls and giving you sound bites that you can use and share on your social media platforms. If there's anything we know now, Mr. Mayor, if we didn't know before, these are powerful tools, these social media tools, and it's time for us to harness them, to use them in the interest of the common good.
Yeah. And also, as we look at what happened last week, we had our 2-year anniversary show 2 years ago. It was the 8th, I think, 9th.
9th, December 9th. That's right.
It was December 9th in 2019 that we had our national conference of barbers and stylists. It came from all over the country to convene in Maryland.
Don't forget that title.
And no research on us without us is
there
what
go.
The barbers and stylists say to scientists. And so that was the impetus of this. And I was we were looking at some numbers, and let me tell you, the numbers were so startling, Dr. T. I was asking our crew, these numbers can't be right. So Meg, if you can bring up the numbers this is from last week, Dr. T. This is from last week. Meg, kind of run the numbers and kind of tell us what's going on with the numbers since last week.
Absolutely. So since we all talked to you last week, there have been 700,000 new cases of COVID-19 just since last Thursday, the 9th. Since last Thursday, 9,000 people have died of COVID-19, but 2 million Americans have become fully vaccinated since last Thursday, and 2,000 people have gotten COVID-19 boosters.
All right.
Right. So we got a lot of work to do because we have a new variant that's out. Dr. T, tell us a little bit about this variant that everybody is saying is more transmissible than even Delta.
Well, you know, we're running our way through the Greek alphabet now that we're at Omicron, and these variants keep spinning out, and then some become variants of concern, and that's what we have with us right now. The data is coming out of South Africa. They believe that it has many, many more mutations on the spike protein than the current Delta, and that it's more transmissible, making it easier to pass from one person to another. The question is it more virulent, meaning does it lead to more severe illness and hospitalizations? And here's the take. Even if it's less virulent, and that's what we hope, that you may get the sniffles, you may get sick, you may stay home from work, but you don't end up on a ventilator. That's what we hope. But by it being more transmissible, Mr. Mayor, it means the pool of people infected is much larger. So even a small percentage of people that end up in the hospital in that larger pool could overwhelm our hospital systems. Right now, as we speak, right there up in Wisconsin, Michigan, those states, their hospital systems are facing capacity. So it won't take much to get over the edge. And so the concern is, as we all come home for the holiday, okay, that we could have a big surge come January. And Mr. Mayor, it's flu season.
Right. So we got a trifecta. We got influenza, we have Delta, and now the new variant.
That's right.
God, bring up Dr. Clark. We need to talk with her. Please, would you bring me a doctor? Please. I would. Excuse me, doctor.
I am here.
Dr. Clark, I'm exasperated. We think we are getting over Delta, and then all of a sudden we get this new variant, and it's more transmissible than the previous one. Tell us a little bit about this particular one, and where do we stand today as you understand it?
Well, that was an excellent rundown of the numbers and some of the facts that Dr. T mentioned. But, let's be clear, we weren't really getting over Delta. We had a lull in Delta, and even without Omicron, we were concerned, given that, looking back at last winter, that we knew that people were going to be going back indoors, especially as the weather got colder and the holidays came around. We cautioned and urged people to, be careful, but that was all because we knew that, all things being equal, Delta would result in another surge in the wintertime. But now we actually have this faster spreading variant, Omicron, which apparently has actually been in the United States since November 15th. That's when they saw the first international traveler who tested positive for Omicron here. So it got here even earlier than we thought, which was originally the beginning of December. And just as Dr. T said, there's still some things that we're not sure about. One thing that we did learn recently was that the monoclonal antibodies, which are the antibodies manufactured in a lab that are then given to people when they come down with COVID to prevent them from getting sick, those monoclonal antibodies don't appear to work well against Omicron. And so they're going to have to be new ones that are manufactured and put together in order to administer to people who come down with the Omicron variant. So it has some real life implications. All the rest of the treatments will probably stay the same, but it's important to understand that. It's important to understand, will the existing vaccines work? It seems like it might evade the antibodies produced by the existing vaccines. However, the good news is that if you're boosted, so you have your third dose, you have sort of a huge influx of antibodies now to overwhelm the variant. So that does seem to be effective. So I would really encourage everyone, especially if you're in a high-risk group, please go get boosted if you have your first 2 doses. And if you have no doses at all, it's time to go ahead and get them, especially since we're talking about moving into Christmas, moving into New Year's and deeper into the winter.
You know, we had Thanksgiving, and I can only imagine the number of people who are no longer with us who went to Thanksgiving dinner and was unvaccinated, and through their gathering doing Thanksgiving contracted COVID and met their demise. And that's where the sadness come, because many people through hesitancy, and I don't know, you know, you're listening to all of the disinformation and misinformation, Dr. Mel. And so people are really dying because of people lying. So
Yeah.
so people are dying because of a
Yeah.
lying. You see what I'm saying? And that's a sad commentary, because, you know, when did people stop trusting science, Dr. Mel?
Well, you know, I think it's not so much that we stop trusting scientists, and I'm talking about the African American community. We stop trusting scientists. I think that, you know, with the overwhelming amount of misinformation that feeds into the narrative that seems to reinforce our life experience as Black people in America, it makes it more difficult to push through that and find the kernels of truth when it does benefit our community, right? And so I think, as Dr. T said earlier on, social media has really been the what has ignited this just deluge of misinformation and disinformation. University of Maryland did the wonderful study that came out of the Center of Health Equity that Dr. T leads, that showed that it was the same Russian bots and trolls that influenced the 2016 election, that influenced the discussions around vaccines on social media. And those same things have just been tweaked when it came to the COVID vaccine, and the names changed and the dates changed to then label misinformation to get out to our community, to hurt our community. And unfortunately, it's taken, you know, it's really just sprung up like weeds in the fertile soil of distrust that we already have.
You know, Mr. Mayor,
Well, go ahead.
I wanted to elevate something that Dr. Mel said about the therapeutics in Omicron. You're right. We're coming up with therapeutics that can, even if you get infected, prevent you from ending up in a hospital on a ventilator, be it monoclonal antibodies or whatever Merck is coming out with if their device is approved. All of them require early detection, almost within a 5-day window. What does that mean? That means you need to know your status. And Dr. Mel, you know what we're hearing in the barbershops?
What's that?
Where can I get tested, Dr. T? And then they find out, oh, it's going to charge me. They're asking me for my insurance.
Right.
Testing should be like getting a drink of water. If that is going to be how we're going to treat people with the new therapeutics, and how we keep people from infecting others, because they'll stay home if they know they're infected.
Yeah.
So one thing about that is some good news, is that as far as testing, you can now call up your local library and get a free at-home COVID test. So
where do you live?
Just do search on the internet, go to your local library, call them up first.
But that's not everywhere, Dr. Mel. That may be where you are, but I'm telling you, we're trying to get tests now, and it's difficult for us to get tests. You would think it would be everywhere, like Dr. T is saying.
I know it's a nationwide program though, so check with your local.
Really?
I'm not
Oh,
saying
wonderful.
That's good.
every
Okay,
local
Barbara.
library to have them, but
Okay.
check with your local library.
I know they have it in DC.
That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. One of the things you said something, Dr. Mel, and I want to go back to it. You said we may have been through with Delta, but Delta wasn't through with us, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So technically, for those people who thought we had gone through the process and that Delta was on its way down, it's like we spiked the ball too early. And if you spike the ball on the 30-yard line, that's not a touchdown, that's a fumble, right?
I think that pretty much sums it up. And, I see these, people on the news talking about COVID fatigue. Just as you said, we might be tired of COVID, but COVID's not tired of us because we are a wonderful host for COVID. And for those of us, those people that are unvaccinated, it's like we're saying the door is wide open, come on in.
Yeah.
And so, Delta was not through with us. It's still not through with us. But it does seem that in some other countries, Omicron is taking over. And we think that might be how it evolves here in the United States.
So you're thinking that Omicron is going to take over Delta, so it's going to kick Delta off the dance floor?
That is a possibility because it seems that it spreads more rapidly. I mean, we're talking about a doubling in the number of cases in 3 days in some countries, 40% increase over 2 days in the UK. So yeah, it does seem like it's spreading very rapidly.
All right, let's bring up Dr. Carol Ritter to hang out with us for a second. Dr. Carol Ritter is one of our standard panelists with us. She's always with us. Dr. Ritter, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well tonight. It's lovely to be here.
Good. We were just talking with Dr. Mel, and Dr. Mel really lays things out. I want everybody to know that Dr. Mel has her own show, Excuse Me, Doctor. And I mean, she's incredible. So
I thought you were apologizing. That's the name of the show.
That is the name of the show. It's to empower people to ask questions of their healthcare provider.
You know how when you walk up to somebody and say, "Excuse me, can you?"
Right.
I got it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Ritter, you were talking about something about the new variant and Delta, and you were saying that the new variant, you said this before last week, that this was going to kind of take over Delta. Tell us what your thoughts about that, because Dr. Mel mentioned the same thing. So I just wanted to kind of let you chime in on that.
Right. I mean, this virus, we kind of personify it. It really is nefarious, and it knows how to mutate in order to get to the most vulnerable. And we have already known that it is mutated. And every time it mutates, it becomes like 60% more contagious. It's not going to mutate to make itself less effective, because then it's going to die. So it's a very smart virus. And because it's a RNA virus, it changes a lot. And I describe it to my patients as it's like a dog that you train to not jump up on the sofa. We have to train this virus to just like keep down and stop mutating, stop jumping up on the sofa so that it keeps mutating, and the only way we can do that is to vaccinate everyone and to keep everybody from spreading it. Because some of the studies I've read have shown that you can actually get exposed to this virus when you're vaccinated, but you're only maybe contagious for 1 day as opposed to 5 days if you're unvaccinated. These studies are coming out now. So people are saying, if I get vaccinated, I can still get COVID. Yes, but you're only going to be contagious for 1 day. So we have to be smarter than this virus. And we have 4 brains that the virus doesn't have. So we can beat this.
Can you say something about women, pregnant women, fertility, get that taken care of as a gynecologist? Can you speak to that?
Yes, I think, we have had a lot of enough studies, enough information now to know that the virus is very damaging for pregnant women. And it does cross over. Some of the babies are being born with COVID. It's very sad, but the women who get COVID without being vaccinated when they're pregnant are 20 times more likely to die. I'm sorry, just
So
die.
hold up. Would you please say that again, Dr. Ritter?
Women who are unvaccinated, pregnant women who are unvaccinated who get COVID are 20 times more likely to die than women who are vaccinated who get COVID when they're pregnant. I mean, and that's in our country. Other countries, it's even higher because, we have a healthcare system. So that's a lot. And it is incredibly sad when this happens, because you're not only putting yourself at risk, you're putting your unborn child at risk. So, and there are so many sad cases. We don't hear about these cases because they're so incredibly sad, but, C-sections on women who are, on respirators, a baby that's born an orphan.
Right. Wow. Let me just say this, and we're going to move on to some more people, and we're going to keep you all in the loop. Why the hesitancy now, Dr. Mel? We've gone 8-9 months maybe with the vaccine, maybe longer. People have taken the shot. Over 2 million fellow citizens, family members, friends, neighbors, co-workers taking the shot. But we still have people who've not taken the shot. Now, we're telling them that since last week, 700,000 people have contracted COVID, right? 9,000 people since last week have died from COVID, right? Yeah. But we still have people saying, I'm taking my chances. Help me out with that logic. I know you are a physician. You're not a psychologist, but I'm not. It doesn't compute to me.
Excuse me, doctor. Why are these people hesitant?
Yeah.
Excuse me, doctor. Yeah.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. Social media allows you to live in a bubble of your own information, right? That information that you want to believe. And especially with social media, it actually curates the things that you click on to give you more of what you want to believe. So you end up in this this bubble of your own making, and it can be very hard to penetrate that bubble with actual facts and evidence. I think that's one big thing. And we talked about the reasons why in the African-American community, the fact that the vaccine would be harmful to us resonates more with our truth than that it would actually be helpful to us, right? And then there's the other thing of what I call the myth of rugged individualism, this American concept of my liberty is the most important ethical value that I have, totally ignoring our roots in our Africanness, which talks about the concept of Ubuntu. I am because we are, which is the countervailing, the counterbalancing ethical value that we as African Americans, we live that every day. But for some reason with this vaccine, there's a disconnect between understanding that we're in a pandemic and that getting vaccinated is actually the highest expression of love for our community and our family by actually protecting not just ourselves, but it protects those around us and it protects our community. And I think that concept is just not getting through, unfortunately, especially when we talk about this protective bubble of misinformation and disinformation that unfortunately people have around them.
Yeah, we got Christmas coming up, and can't help but to think that it's the birth of Jesus, the Christ, and of course, Jesus is love. Lionel Richie said that in his my favorite song, Jesus is love. And so, you got to love somebody to get vaccinated. And I'm not suggesting that you're not getting vaccinated mean that you don't love people, but it does. It's an expression of love, not just for yourself, but for others when you get vaccinated. And we've got to make sure that not only do you get vaccinated for the first and second shot, but the booster as well, because that's going to be the game changer in terms of your survivability of the new variant. And that's why we want to do that. Let's bring in some more people, man. I want to check out the pulse of people and see where they are. So for all of the people online and people are in the Facebook space, we want you to put your word up that best describe how you feel right now.
So
Put your word up to tell.
Excuse me, doctor.
Oh,
Hey, Andre.
Lord. Andre.
This is Andre from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, Mr. Andre.
But I had to get in with the excuse me, doctor. So
Yeah, bring it on, bring it on.
But what you're saying, or what I'm getting is within the social media, what I'm doing is I'm surrounding myself with myself. So in order for me to gather any new information, I've got to break that chain somewhere in there for something outside to come in. So is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Right.
And just learning how to parse the disinformation from the misinformation. So when you get something on social media, go to other sources and fact check it. Make sure that it's consistent across the board. I mean, if someone sends you something who you tend to give them the benefit of the doubt that it's true. But if you actually fact check it and go around to other sources and see, well, actually that doesn't really seem to compute with all these other sources I'm seeing. But that takes somebody wanting to not believe it, right? To wanting to at least say, is this true or not? And being a little skeptical before accepting everything that you see hook, line, and sinker.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm real excited for Dr. Mel and our other guests is to get a pulse beat of this audience.
Right.
So we're talking now, but for the next 30 seconds, just use the chat. If you're out there on Facebook, use the comment, put words in that best describe how you're feeling right now. And we've got a whole army behind the scenes building a word cloud. And Dr. Mel, we've been doing this every Thursday for the past several months. When you look at that over time, it tells us the pulse beat of what's happening here. And I think it'll be quite interesting to see what comes up. So 30 seconds, keep putting those words in.
Yeah. Well, let's just gonna put the words in. Let's let them put the words in because we started late. Thanks, Andre, for chiming in. Excuse me, Andre. See you. Bye.
Well,
You
I
gotta love it. You gotta love it.
I thought it was important because I think that what you're saying about social media is the same thing I think about it, where people are only doing social media to their peers, to the people that are around them, the people that have the same concept. And that's what I was saying about surrounding myself with myself. So in order, we have to develop, like she was stating, that we're going to have to do a little extra work to find out whether what we're saying is actually what's needed or what's true.
Right.
And I just wanted, of course, I had to make it a little light, but
Right. I know that. I thank you. Love you, man. How you doing? Everything's good.
I'm good. You guys good?
Good.
I'm trying to catch Lightfoot. He's around here somewhere.
Since you coming from Atlanta, you really made it appropriate for me to bring Dr. King in, as well as Mahalia Jackson. We got Dr. King in the person of Stefan Ferguson, and we have Mahalia Jackson in the person of Miss Quatazian Hunt. So let's bring them up and let's introduce our audience to them. This is like a wonderful exchange. Let me first introduce Reverend Stefan Ferguson. I've been knowing him for many many years. When it comes to Dr. Martin Luther King and someone who embodies his spirit, there is no one that I know that personifies Dr. King more than Reverend Stephan Ferguson. He is the official imitator, I guess you would use that word, impersonator, if you will, of Dr. Martin Luther King. I would always tell people, I bet you a gold guinea that if Stephan Ferguson is speaking and you're not watching a television and you just hear his voice, you cannot distinguish him from Dr. Martin Luther King. And I don't care who you are. You can be his children and you won't know the difference. And that's how powerful he is. And so we have him with us live and in living color. And he's going to bring not only Reverend Stephan Ferguson's space of leadership, but also he's going to grace us with the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today. And Miss Quatazian Hunt, she is a former student of mine. She went through my leadership class. She is a songbird. If you could ever just listen to her and close your eyes, she takes you into another space. She's the kind of person that make hair tingle on my head, and I don't even have hair. So
you still got the follicles.
That's she, that's the kind of person that she is. She's such a wonderful person. She's a recording artist, a spiritual leader. She is spirit-filled. What Gain is her hit song. And if you've not heard it, you need to go out and get it. It's a wonderful song. I went out, she sent it to me. I went out in my truck because I like to ride in my old truck on Sunday mornings. And I just listened to that song for hours, just driving over and over again. And it filled my heart. So I want you to know that you blessed me, Miss Hunt. All right, Dr. King.
What would Dr. King say?
Good evening.
How you doing, Dr. King?
I am certainly delighted to be here with you tonight. I've just been listening to all that's been going on and all that has been transpiring, and I'm just glad to be a part of this.
One of the things as we talk about leadership, because this is required, this leadership is required, courage is required during this time to save lives. I mean, we can talk about the politicization, and I know that in the spiritual realm, you all try to stay out of politics. But what we're trying to do is save lives so that we can deal with the other issues of life, like voting, which you were such a proponent for, and like the Poor People's Campaign, which was your last campaign before your demise. And all of those things were required in order to move this country towards the more beloved community, as you talked about it, the beloved community that you talk about. I want you to talk a little bit about courage and leadership in this time of crisis.
Well, courage is certainly very important. Courage is not really having the strength to do it. It's really not having the strength and doing it anyway. And so what we have to do is really learn to, I think a very important part of it is education. The education aspect is a reality. And from a nonviolent perspective, certainly that is the key, to educate ourselves. I said in the Birmingham jail, the letter from Birmingham jail, that any nonviolent direct action campaign, there are 4 basic steps. Collection of the facts to determine whether injustice exists, negotiation, self-purification, and direct action. And so these are the elements, and I've always stood on the principles of nonviolence, and I think that will work today. Many people don't feel that it is necessary, that it will work, that we're living in a different period, but we're still dealing with the same issues. And if we look back historically, we will see that in every aspect of reality, in every period of history, as it relates to race relations. It took a decision by the Supreme Court of our nation to bring constitutional validity to the dominant thought pattern of that particular period. And so as we're living in this period, I think it's necessary that the voting piece is very important, and that we elect people who are willing to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with their God. So leadership is very important, and it's something that we have to look into extremely at a deep level and delve deep into that philosophy. So from the perspective of leadership, that is something that we certainly need today, and that is part of the nonviolent reaction that we should have. So I'm always really going back to the concept of nonviolence, which is rooted in love, and we were talking about that earlier. So to answer your question, as far as the leadership where we are today, I think the unification piece is necessary. I think we have been divided against ourselves in many aspects. You know, I think about Paul. I think about the different people in the Bible. The good that I would, I do not. The evil that I would not, that I do. This strange dichotomy, this agonizing tension within human nature is one of the tragic things of man's earthly pilgrimage. And that's why I stand on the basis of Jesus Christ and understand that he was a revolutionist and he was a leader. So I think we need to, in order to move forward, I think it's necessary that we go back. You know, I preached a sermon, Rediscovering Lost Values. And I was talking about when Jesus' parents was going on to Jerusalem after the Passover, they were headed back to Nazareth. And about a day later, the Bible tells us about a day later, they looked back and they realized that Jesus wasn't there. But one of the things they had enough sense to realize is that in order to get on to Nazareth, they had to go back to Jerusalem and rediscover that mighty precious lost values. And I believe that we as a nation, in order to go forward, we must go back and rediscover those precious values and bring them in today. And I think it will make a drastic reality to significant progress to where we are today.
You know, they say that disequilibrium allows for growth. That as we are going through this, that there's a blessing and a lesson in everything. When you see the numbers, Dr. King, of 800,000 souls lost to COVID, when you hear the numbers that since last Thursday, there's been 700 new cases, and since last Thursday, 9,000 people have lost their lives to COVID. How do we find good? I mean, I know that you have always, even in the midst of your own suffering, you always sought the good and look for the good in all things. How do we find good in this period with all of these tragic statistics and numbers?
I believe that we must rely on our faith. We must, and I think that was what was so significant about the movement during the civil rights period, is because we based it on our faith. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. And so it was birthed inside of the church. And we have moved away from that in many aspects. And so I think that if we can, organize, strategize, mobilize, and I believe what really helped us during that movement was, as you mentioned, the songs by Mahalia Jackson and others, the songs and bringing in that spirit. I remember in Birmingham, Alabama, we were in that majestic struggle there. We would move out of the 16th Street Baptist Church day after day. And by the hundreds, we would move out. And old Bull Connor would tell them to send the dogs for them. And they did come. But we just went before the dogs singing, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around." Then he would say, "Bring the fire hoses on." And as I said to somebody the other night, Bull Connor didn't know history. He knew a kind of physics that somehow didn't relate to the trans physics that we knew about. And that was the fact that there was a certain kind of fire that no water could put out. So we went before the fire hose. Now we had known water. If we were Baptist or some other denomination, we had been immersed. If we were Methodist or some others, we had been sprinkled, but we knew water. That couldn't stop us. Then we'd be thrown in jail, and we'd be stacked in there in the paddy wagon like sardines in a can. And Bull Connor would tell them to take us off, and they would, and we would just go off in the paddy wagon singing, "We Shall Overcome." And then we'd be thrown in jail, and we would see the jailers looking through the windows. They were being moved by our prayers. They were being moved by our words and our songs. There was a power in there that Bull Connor couldn't adjust to. And so we ended up transforming Bull into a steer, and we won our struggle in Birmingham. And so that's what we based it.
Boy, I'm telling you. Yeah. All right. So what and let me say to everybody that's not on the stage at this point, I want you all to kind of mute so that we can keep everything focused on where we are today. Let me bring on Mahalia Jackson, Mrs. Quatasian Hunt. You know, Dr. King was correct that it's something about that spirit when you sing. It's something about the spirit of the vibration of your voice that penetrates, that permeates spaces and calls people to reflect, oftentimes on things that are beyond their cognition. They don't even know what is going on with them. They said it's like they say it's like fire shut up in my bones. Somebody said that once before. So tell us a little bit about how the arts and how music can touch people in a way that maybe can get them to revisit them taking care of themselves and loving each other enough so that they can take care of each other as well.
Well, one thing, thank you so much for having me. One thing I realize is that you have to meet people where they are. I had the distinct honor and privilege of serving grieving families, even up until maybe a few weeks ago, people who passed away of COVID. And I realized it doesn't matter what genre of music it is, but music can be universal. And so as I sat and I watched grieving loved ones, from children to moms and dads, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, you know, I had the opportunity, the honor to minister to them, minister the word of God through song. And one thing that I learned is that for me, I had to spend time with God. I had to spend time with God in order to give them what was intended for me to give to them. And so it was a level of comfort. I can't begin to tell you all of the sentiments that was brought to me after ministering to grieving families. Some who had not been vaccinated, actually, whose loved one passed away. My stepsister actually passed away of COVID just recently, and I ministered through song at her funeral. And just learning that people who were not vaccinated, who lost loved ones, who were still hesitant, having that opportunity to share my gift with them and even talk with them afterwards, changed a few people's mind. It may not have changed everyone's mind, but it changed a few people's mind. But the artistry, the song, and drawing people into where you are, it's about worship. And my overall goal is to not only just worship him in spirit and in truth, but bring people in to worship him. And that's the artistic side about it. It's just drawing those people in.
Well, you know, we are so happy to have both you, Dr. King, and you, Ms. Jackson, in this conversation, and we're going to continue to do that. What I want to do now is I want to go and see what the people are thinking. Let's go to the word cloud and see how the feelings, what are the collective feelings that we have.
Oh, this is
Hunt,
interesting.
Do you see what the dominant, Dr. King, what's the dominant word there?
Determined.
And blessed.
and
You see
blessed.
those big words? The larger the word, the more people said that word. And look at in the middle, in the center where there are, see determination. You even talked about that, Dr. King, right?
Absolutely.
We have to be steadfast, unmovable, always abiding in the word of it. Look, I don't want to preach here, but it's something. It's something about understanding this notion of being determined and not letting nobody turn us around, right? Right. And blessed and committed. And there's some people who are sad, and you just talked about it, losing loved ones and knowing that the number of people who have died needlessly, right? Right. We are saddened by that. Some people are worried because we thought that the COVID was getting better and that people would go back to a sense of normalcy. Now you all tell me we got another variant that's even more transmissible than the previous one. Now I'm worried because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I need to do to protect myself and my family now. You know, you told me that I needed to get a shot. Now you want me to get my 5-year-old a shot. And I don't know about that because I don't even know if their bodies can handle. There's a whole lot of stuff going on in my head. I don't know science. I've never been a public health scientist. I don't know about that. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know about that. I'm not an epidemiologist. I don't know about that. And you're trying to make me understand all of these big words, Dr. Mel, right? Right. And I don't know. And you asked me to trust you, but you never told me how you are trustworthy. So
Dr. Mel, why do I feel inspired and frustrated at the same time? We see that there too.
Tell me what you see, Dr. Mel. How do you interpret what you see on the screen?
Well, I see blessed. That obviously jumps out. And you know, we are a people of faith, and we are a people of resilience. And even in the times where it seems like there's no hope, we always pull through. And I think that blessed and that determined really captures that. And so I would say to that person who feels inundated with information and, you know, feeling like you can't really parse it out, knowing that there are people that you can go to. You can start with your child's pediatrician if you have a good relationship with your pediatrician. If you don't have people around you in the medical field that you feel that you can go to, there's so many churches that are out here giving out information about how to stay safe in COVID and giving information out about the vaccine. There are even sites, churches that are sites for vaccination. So go to those places in your community that you have historically felt that you could trust. They are there for you to have those one-on-one discussions so that you don't feel overwhelmed. You don't feel like you don't have anywhere to turn. And then even outside of that, there are these programs here. I mean, you all have been consistent, showing up for the community week after week after week, working with the barbers and working with the stylists to help them also be trusted messengers. If they can't necessarily explain it, they can at least point people in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So as a community, we can rally and come together to support the individuals that I know are expressing that frustration, so that we will all continue to feel blessed, loved, energized, determined, and have momentum.
Yeah. Ms. Hunt, you know, you are looking at these words, and this is the kind of, you know, capsulation of the feelings and emotions that the people who are watching and are engaged with us are feeling. How do you interpret what you see?
I interpret it as our dosage of reality right now where we are. Some people are, well, in the comments, it says pissed off. Some people are upset, they're angry. Some people feel determined. Even I put down that I felt confident and overwhelmed a lot. the funerals that I had to do, I was getting calls 2 to 3 times a week, doing funerals, 2 and 3 funerals on a Saturday and Sunday. And I began to get overwhelmed. So I can't even imagine how overwhelmed these families are, losing multiple family members to COVID. But there is, I do have a confidence that through science and through us getting vaccinated, through good information, that we will be able to overcome this.
We shall overcome. Good. That's a good way to go back into the Hollywood Squares. Thank you so much. Bring us back to the Hollywood Squares. It all comes back to full circle that we shall overcome. This too shall pass. But we got some work to do. And Dr. Mel, you're correct. We got to stay focused. We have to be intentional about this. This is not over with. Dr. Ritter, you're correct. That if we don't really focus on this, then there are going to be multiple people will die needlessly. They are projecting that although we're at 800,000, that by March, there'll be 1 million people who die of COVID. We will reach that 1 million mark. Now, I'm saying, as they say in the church, the devil is a lie, right? Right. Let's not let that happen. And we can, in this spirit of Christmas, right? We can, in a spirit of love, reach out to people and tell them what we know, direct them to good information, science versus myths and disinformation, so that they can get the proper information, believing that if they get the right information, then they naturally gravitate to take care of themselves. And that's the work that we got to do. And so we all have, as they say in the Bible, Dr. King, or as they say, it may not be in the Bible, but certainly was in the songs we used to sing. I got a charge to keep I have, and a God to glorify, and every dying soul to save, to fit them for the sky. To serve this present age, my calling to fulfill, may it all my power engage to do my master's will, right? That's what we used to sing. You remember that, Mahalia Jackson, you remember that song? Right. Dr. King, you've heard that song before?
And Dr. King, that sounds like a song that drum majors would sing. We need some drum majors out here.
Drum majors. Drum major instinct, want to be out front. Let's bring on, let's see what we got. Let me look at the folk we got out in the audience, and let me see if I can bring a few more people in and have something. Let me see if we can bring, I see Sandra Jenkins. Let me bring her up, but just for a second. We're gonna bring on Chris Sherlock Holmes. We got him, and we
Dynamite
got
Brown's out there.
Dynamite Brown. We got Dynamite Brown. Where's that? You see Dynamite Brown there? So we're gonna bring some folk up. And I'm gonna bring everybody up. We're gonna have a conversation. We have Ronald McKenzie here, so we're gonna bring you in. We're gonna talk about this. We're about to go into Christmas, and this is a time. If we didn't do it in Thanksgiving, and all of these people died since Thanksgiving because they gathered at Thanksgiving, let's not duplicate that for Christmas. They say insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result. Let's at least reevaluate how we're going to do Christmas. Miss Sandra Jenkins, how are you doing?
I'm doing well tonight. Thank you so much. Seeing all your faces. I'm feeling somewhat melancholy tonight. I lost a dear relative of COVID yesterday, a 38-year-old female. And it's really tough trying to understand and wrap my mind around it. I do realize that there also another factor we need to take in consideration is that when the paramedics arrived at her house, they really could not immediately tend to her right away because they had to first rule out the fact of whether or not she had been vaccinated or what was the circumstances in the house or what have you. So that delayed a lot of the time that the medical professionals could really, to respond. So, that was very, very sad to know. But as for right now, that just gives me the more determination, okay, to really get the message out there in our salon. There are so many people who are unvaccinated, just the same as Audra. And we must never, ever let this here just not be a part of the discussion topic at all cost. So that is pretty much the case here. And I have to say that it is a, as the doctor was saying, Dr. Clark, COVID, we are a very attractive host to COVID. COVID knows that we are there for it. And if we don't take heed to it, then I must say, things can be very tough.
Well, let me
Tell our guests where you are, Sandra. Introduce
Yes,
yourself.
I am. Yes, my name is Sandra Jenkins. I'm a resident let's just say Philadelphia, homegrown. I'm from Philly, but I am a business owner in the Montgomery County section of Pennsylvania, just a stone throw out of Philadelphia. So we serve, a very large community of various levels of, economic statures. We are full service salon. We are constantly, very visible to the community. So it was a very, very, let's just say, busy day for me today. I was able to meet some of our public officials today and also speak to some other people who are in the media in regards to what we're doing. So that is, my hometown of Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much.
Well, our hearts go out to you and your family. We will certainly keep you in our prayers. We know it happens, and we know it's happening to people, but when it hits home, sometimes it resonates at another level. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Dynamite Mike, man, how are you doing, fella?
I'm trying to hold on, man, Neil. This thing, as it continues to go on, it just gets close. It gets closer and closer to your doorstep, and it landed on mine. My first son, he's 28. He's on the hell no wall and won't even talk to me about it. But he did call me and told me he contracted COVID yesterday, and he's just feeling real weak, and I'm just scared. I'm scared. I lost my man, Lou. I had another client that I was cutting today from Jamaica, and he's on Facebook Live watching his buddy in Jamaica be buried on the sermon of COVID. And he was going back and telling me, showing me the pictures of him when he first caught it, and he had the mask on. He was saying that he couldn't breathe, and that's how he died. He couldn't breathe. The COVID choked him out. COVID is choking people out. It's like strangling people. I'm just so scared for my son. He's 28. I know he has health on his side, but and then I hear Sandra Jenkins just lost. It's just like been a day of death, and knowing that it could possibly turn into that because he's not vaccinated, and towards the end of it is when you start getting that I can't breathe type thing. And that's what I'm just so afraid of for my son. I want to punch him. I'm pissed off. I'm upset because it doesn't have to happen. I'm talking, I'm blue in the face. I'm fully vaccinated. I'm boosted. I have my booster. I mean, I'm looking at you in your face. What is your hesitant? What is your why? People are dying. And now it's on my doorstep. And it's just, I'm trying to deal with it.
Yeah. You said something that's so powerful, and I think it's sobering because these are real life experiences. This is not play. And we know that there are consequences. We see the consequences that are displaying themselves in statistics. And so what we are trying to do is to get each and every one of us, let me speak from that vantage point, to do introspective work and ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it for me to not be vaccinated, knowing that it is a virus that is lurking to find the vulnerable? It's looking for you to kill and destroy. And so that's why it's so important. Chris Sherlock, man, Dynamite Mike, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Chris Sherlock, man, how you doing? I love you, man. How you doing, fella?
How's everyone doing? Just glad to be here. Chris Sherlock, I'm from Maryland Hair Program. So have the courtesy of pleasure working underneath Dr. Thomas as the community outreach lead, where we go out to the community and recruit barbers and stylists into the network inside of Prince George's County, Montgomery County, and Baltimore City in the state of Maryland. So we are building momentum, and we are taking notice on ears and sinking in on heads, because the word is sinking in. Pretty much, people are wondering what's the value of getting the vaccine if you can still transmit. I have a really close personal friend who I just had a conversation with today, and just telling them that with that vaccine, you may be sick, but you will not be as sick. So that's why I'm glad that message has resonated throughout this session here. That's really something that I think needs to go along with the mis and disinformation groups of individuals. Is just let them know that you all may be sick, but you will not be as sick.
Yeah. Dr. Mel, I want you to help me out with this, because people talk about, if you're going to get it anyway, then why get the vaccine? I mean, because, if everybody's going to get it, there's no way to elude it. Even vaccinated people have breakthroughs. How do you respond to that? I know that you, excuse me, doctor, I'm sure people have brought that up to you.
Yeah, quite a bit. First, let me say to Mr. Brown and Ms. Jenkins, man, I just wish I could come through there and give both of y'all a big hug. This is real, just like you said. And the analogy that I use in terms of people, saying, I could get sick anyway, whether I get the vaccine or not, is, if you're going out in sub-zero weather, you're going to want a coat. You're going to want a couple of layers under that coat. You might still feel the cold, right? But it's much less likely that you will die of hypothermia or that you will get frostbite. It's much less likely than if you go out butt naked. Okay. And
I hadn't heard that in a long time, Dr. Mel. I mean, I don't want to stop
Just
your
the thought.
flow, but I have not heard butt naked.
Well,
keeping it real.
But naked
hold up,
is,
Pastor. I'm sorry, Dr. King. I didn't want you to have to hear that.
I didn't curse.
I've heard butt naked before, but it's been a few years. Go ahead, Dr. Mel. I didn't want to break your flow. Go ahead.
That's basically what it's like if you are unvaccinated in the face of COVID, and you'll feel the cold, right? And there might be more serious consequences like frostbite or dying of cold if you go out unvaccinated or basically without any clothes on in the face of COVID. And so like I said, yeah, you will feel the cold even if you're bundled up, but you'll have a much greater chance of avoiding the consequences of severe cold.
You know-
Excuse me, doctor. Just real quick, Omar. When Mike described what was going on with his son, he had this network. And when he let us know what was happening, we called Dr. Ritter. We got on the phone. We did curation for him. He's got a toolkit. Am I right, Mike? A toolkit Meg put together. This is a place where even at the individual level, we can help people navigate the complexities with their loved ones right here in this space.
Yeah, Dr. King, go. Did somebody want to say something? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've talked to numerous family members, not my own family members, like people call me and put me on the phone with their family members to have one-on-one discussions. I've had literally hundreds of those, some successful, some not, just like Ms. Mahalia said, Ms. Hunt. You know, you're not always going to have a breakthrough, but a lot of times you will be able to show people why it makes sense to get vaccinated.
Dr. King, I want to know, because when people are seeing with their own eyes and experiencing in their own lives deaths, they're coming to churches and funerals, and what we're finding is that the funeral has become the new family reunion for many of our people. How do we impress upon people the seriousness of what we are experiencing in the midst of hesitancy?
I certainly believe it goes back to the educational piece. What you're doing here today, educating people on the reality of what is going on. Many people are not aware of the reality. I know one of the things that I get quite often is, well, you know, they came up with this virus in less than a year. And a lot of people are really looking at it as they're afraid because they feel like they just rush the virus. They don't understand
the vaccine. You're talking about the vaccine?
I'm sorry, the vaccine. They just rush the vaccine. They don't believe that it is a vaccine that is going to work. They've seen people who have been vaccinated getting sick, some even dying. So they have this, and then they look back on history. They look at the syphilis ordeal. They look at all of the things that have transpired, particularly among African Americans, among Black people, and they're afraid. I think that we have to lead by example. We have to lead it, particularly in our churches. Many people, all of us go to church, and I think that the reality is that people are not educated on exactly what is going on. And I think once they know what is happening, they see what's happening as far as people dying, but they don't see it from the vaccine part. They see it because they feel like, hey, I'm protected, I'll be all right if I stay inside. So we have to lead by example. We have to educate. We have to unify. Dr. Thomas just said it. We, in this space alone with Mr. Brown, they were able to work and to deal with a lot of these issues. So I think it's leadership is very important. Education is a big piece, and unification, coming together. We're caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. And whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. You can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the way the world is made. This is the interrelated structure of reality. John Donne caught it years ago. He placed it in graphic terms. He said, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. But then he goes on toward the end to say, any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Therefore, never send to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. And so this is the meaning of having this unified perspective, this educational piece to let people know what it really is going on.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we want to do is let me thank you, Dr. King. I mean, I could not have put it in more profound terms. Let's bring Dr. Sandra Cooper up, and we want to talk with Ms. Dorothy Reynolds, and then we'll go to Ms. Stacy Ingram Ruffin, and in that order. Let me come back. All right. And Dr. Cooper, how are you doing today?
Good evening, everyone. I'm doing well. All is well.
Yeah, a little melancholy, huh? After
Yeah,
hearing
just
everything.
hearing, yeah, it's
Yeah, I can feel
it's
your spirit.
heart-wrenching to hear
Yeah.
these stories. Yeah.
Tell me what you're thinking.
It's overwhelmed at this point. Like Mike said, it does hit home. I lost relatives in the during the inception of this virus, and pandemic. So I know that it can be very heart-wrenching, and it can tear at hearts and families. So the importance of being able to address as Dr. Ferguson had said, the education component and heightening awareness and connecting individuals to resources, as Dr. Clark had said, is just imperative. And then when you're contending with multiple issues and managing those issues, such as underlying conditions, that compounds the situation. So we have to understand, yes, we're working with COVID, but we also have to remember there are other areas that we have to continue to address in order for folks to live a quality of life. So I think this work is imperative. I think it's life-changing, just being a part of this effort. And again, we have to remain in alignment with equity and being equity focused in this particular initiative. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper. Dorothy Reynolds, how you doing?
Arkansas.
Pine Bluff, man. Now make sure that you get
I
it
got
right.
the right state that time.
You know what?
Unmute
You just
yourself,
can't go to
Dorothy.
the right state. You got to be in the right city. You know.
I got to get to
You
the
know.
right.
Unmute yourself. There you go. You know, tell him you live in Pine Bluff, Miss Reynolds.
I was born in Louisiana, but I've lived in Pine Bluff, Arkansas most of my life.
Welcome.
Well, tell us a little bit about your thoughts and tell us what you're doing. I know that you've been doing a lot of vaccine clinics and that kind of thing. So tell us, kind of give us an update on what's happening in Arkansas.
Well, when I first become involved in the vaccinations, our mayor came to me and introduced to me the concept. And I had to give it some thought, but then as I thought about it, we lost my brother-in-law, who was developmentally delayed, and it was a trying time for us because there was nothing we could do to help him at all, because we couldn't even get in the hospital. We weren't involved in any situations or had any opinion about anything that was done for him. We were fortunate that the Saturday before he expired, one of the nurses was kind enough to do a video conference with us, with him, and he expired that Monday. So we were thankful that we at least had a chance to talk with him and let him know we loved him, because we had been away from him at least 3 or 4 weeks. So when she brought this to me and asked if we would participate in the shots at the shop, I thought about it for a minute and I said, yes, we've got to do this, because the more people that are vaccinated, the less people will suffer what we did with our family members. So the first clinic that we held was in December 11th. And we had 17 people to come that day and to
Give her some
vaccinated.
snaps. Let's give her some snaps.
Yeah, good. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so as people were leaving, they were saying, when can I come back and get my next shot? And I really thought about it. When we first started, I only planned to do that one, but so many people asked us about doing follow-up. So we decided this coming Saturday, the 18th, we will be doing our second clinic
Mhm.
around the vaccinations. And we're praying that it's as successful as the first one was.
Good.
And as we were talking to people, as a matter of fact, I talked to a group of young men, about 6 young men yesterday, and they asked me why should they get the vaccination. They were outside playing basketball, sweating, and rubbing up against each other, no protection, no mask. And I told them about my experience and the experience of other people who've expired that are friends of mine. And they said, we're young, we're not gonna die. So I told them a couple of names of some funeral homes to go and pull them up on their phone and look at the people and the age of those people who had expired due to COVID-19, and to see if the age made any difference when you become ill. And so 2 of them said they would come. The other said, forget it, because the vaccine, they felt it was just a mechanism for tracking them. And I told them that if the government wanted to track them, all those iPhones and what have you that they have, that's the first thing they're going to go for, not the vaccine. But that cell phone that they have, that's going to be the tracking device.
Well, that's a drop the mic moment, Dr. Dorothy Reynolds.
And she's courageous.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Stacy Ingram Ruffin, how are you doing, sweetheart?
I am doing great. How's everyone?
Good.
I really don't have too much, and just wondering when are they going to make everyone in the salons show their vaccination cards, because now last week Philadelphia followed New York, where all the restaurants you have to show your vaccination cards, and in our sports arenas. So everywhere you go, you have to show your vaccination card. So I'm just wondering, TikTok for salons and barbershops to have to show their vaccination card. So I'm still on the fence about making it 100% mandatory in a salon. But I know my receptionist, I always kept talking about it. And she was like, well, Miss Stacy, I got vaccinated, and I was so excited. You know,
is that the last one?
Everyone counts.
We have 2 more, and they come. I think the last one is going to be really soon.
Good.
So I think once those 2, then we are 100% here, like we are at my fitness center. So, and I'll be super excited. So,
are you 100% masked even if they're not vaccinated? Your staff?
We still make them do the sanitizing, the hands. We still could take their temperature. I never stop. I 100% do all of those. Everyone has to. So it's just now in Philadelphia, now that they made it mandatory, so I really believe it's going to be in salons and spas, because New York, you can't go anywhere without showing your vaccination card. So that's how they are in Philadelphia. So I'm just really still just trying to find that magical word to convince everyone to be vaccinated. Like I pray every night to just get that one word. So, but that's all this year. I'm just still hanging in there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stacy. Let me just say Ronald McKenzie, let's bring him up just to say hello to him. He's there or with us, and want to just say hello to him. And hey, man, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Hello to everyone. And I want to say a special hello to my beloved church member, Dr. Ferguson. Been knowing him a long time, knowing real well.
Small world. Amazing.
Small world. Yeah, small world. Good to see you, Doc. We miss you. But we're still working hard every day here in Lithonia by way of AT, trying to convince our young people to go and get vaccinated. Listen to Mr. Brown's story, sort of touched my heart. I was fortunate my 2 older sons contracted the virus early on in the game. both at college and had to be quarantined for a while. But by the grace of the good Lord, they pulled through it. And that's one thing we must continue to do. We must continue to pray, Mr. Brown, knowing and have faith that God will pull us through this because he's able, and continue to try to convince our young people. I'm still having to, out of my 3 locations, have a couple of borrowers that I'm still fighting with to get them to go get vaccinated and continue to wear their masks and stay sanitized. So it's a process. It's a scary process. And we just got to continue to work hard and continue to put it before the people. And I lost a frat brother this week, 33 years old, passed away with COVID. Last week, I lost a homeboy, 33 years old. So I think as people continue to see these young people passing away, they're going to be running getting those vaccinations. So that's where we at. Good to see you guys. And
well,
Hey,
you know, we love you, man.
by the way, Omar, Fort Valley did beat Tuskegee this past.
Hey man,
football.
you know what, man?
Don't
I ain't
start no
studying you.
mess.
I shouldn't have brought you up. Now.
We didn't win many more, but we did beat Tuskegee.
We love you, man. That's, congratulations.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, who could have imagined?
You know,
how
there's
we-
a such thing as the law of average.
I say, Mr. Mayor, who could have imagined how we've evolved to provide a support group
Right.
that Mike's pain is shared with Ron and can help
Yeah.
heal that right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah. Yeah. Andre, I want to give you a couple of seconds. You came in early, but tell them a little bit about this has to be a snippet because we got a special thing that's about to come up. But Andre is in Atlanta as well, Dr. King. But he's big time guy too. So he's like Mr. McKenzie. They big time up in Atlanta. Tell him about what you're doing.
Well, I'm just doing a few things. We're trying to keep everything off the ground. Got barbershops in the airport. Looking to expand that barbershop in the mall, which
and that's the Atlanta airport.
Yeah,
That's
Atlanta
right. You need to let
airport.
you know he's got barbershops in the Atlanta airport.
Well,
Hey, you know, I just want
Hey,
people
wait,
to know that you ain't.
excuse me, doctor. I didn't want to catch you on the wrong foot. Excuse me, doctor. But you know, we're trying to do as much stuff as we can. And I don't want to take anything away from anybody. But when I was talking about the social media thing, that wasn't me. I was just trying to place it where everybody says, because even you guys are on social media and you're all looking at yourself. And that's what, as Dr. Clark was saying, we have to do that, but we also have to open it back up so that everybody will know what we're thinking, what we're talking about. So, you know, and I don't mind a little pressure on me because it's what I do. So
Yeah. We love you very much. Thank you so very much. All right, bring thanks so much. Let's bring up just our 6 people there, and what I want you to do. We're about to end this thing. I'm going to end it with Mahalia, but what I want to do is have Dr. King introduce Mahalia Jackson to sing his favorite song.
Thank you, Mayor Neal. You know, through the struggle, it has been, as we spoke about it earlier, there was many difficulties, many trials and tribulations, but we persevered. And one of the great things that really helped inspire us and keep us going was the music. I've always said it was the music and the message of the movement. And Mahalia Jackson, as many of you know, is my favorite singer, and a voice like that only comes once in a century. And so I am very delighted and honored to present to you tonight, singing my very favorite song, Mrs. Mahalia Jackson.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand, Lord, I hear my cry, hear my cry, guide my feet, lest I fall. Take, Lord, take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home.
Lord have mercy.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
You blessed us today.
When I get speechless, we know there is a God.
My Lord.
And so thank you so very much for blessing us, Dr. King, for your spirit and for your words of wisdom. We thank you for coming to this space and this dispensation in time, knowing that you've been called out to be called on for such a time as this. And to Mahalia Jackson in the person of Quatasian Hunt, thank you so much for blessing us. Your majestic voice permeates the universe, and folk from around the world felt something, and they may not know what it was, but it was something that was felt all over the world based on your majestic voice. And to my doctor, excuse me, Dr. Mel, thank you so much for constantly giving us information and science and putting it where the cows can get it, put it where people can understand, taking complicated situations and framing it in a way that even a baby can get it. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Carol Ritter, for your stick-to-itiveness, your being here with us every day. I could not thank you enough for your commitment to what we're doing. You are our heart. Thank you so much. And to the person who makes it all possible, the person who has the vision and brought us all together, Dr. Stephen Thomas. Man, love is leaving others very encouraged. And then as Jesus, you are love, because we are encouraged by your assembling us in this space. And so as we leave out at 30 minutes after, I only leave you with these two words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember this. You got the power. Have a wonderful holiday season. And until we meet again, bye-bye.
You got the power. Follow us on social media. We'll be sending out messages. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Reverend King.
Bye-bye.